When we, as individuals, find something that is truly special to us, we tend to hold it in the highest regards. In many ways, we attempt to preserve what makes something special to us. This can also be said about a great game series or franchise. Now, over the years, the Mega Man series has seen many incarnations of our Blue Bomber. Granted that he has had 6 installments on the NES alone, it's quite shocking that the formula managed to stay as streamlined throughout. During the early development stages of the Nintendo Entertainment System, it was a renaissance period of sorts for many developers. A series could have a successful run, spawning many sequels, establishing a formula that works. We could also, in the same breath, be met with something entirely unique altogether. I think a good reference point for this would be something like the Legend of Zelda series, where the traditional formula was focused heavily on the action-adventure aspect, mixed with some standard RPG elements. You here take control of Link from a top-down overhead viewpoint, traveling the world with a trusty map system for the various lands you encounter. However, on the flip side of this, in Zelda 2, you primarily take a more side-scrolling approach, placing a bit more emphasis on the combat system while incorporating a top-down world map in comparison. Why I bring this up is during this time, there was no standard formula on how a sequel to a franchise would be approached. Yet with that said, have you ever heard of the phrase, if it isn't broken, don't fix it? Well, apparently Capcom did, because when Mega Man arrived on the scene, the game originally didn't sell as well as anticipated, but that didn't make the passionate individuals behind the Blue Bomber abandon our hero or change course. Instead, they fine-tuned the series and built upon it like an athlete fine-tunes their craft, taking the fundamentals of the game and building their skill set around it to match their attributes. With that said, just because a series is consistently putting out new installments of a tried and true formula that works, doesn't mean it isn't fun or needs to be reinvented. Be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. Looking at you, Mega Man X7. In a modern climate where we are constantly receiving reboots, remasters, and remakes of a series, finding new content almost feels few and far between releases. This is one reason I love the simplicity of the 8-bit and 16-bit formula. Growing up, with each summer break from school, I was treated to a new installment of my favorite series and finding new ones along the way. With that said, I'd like to welcome you to the summer of Mega Man 5. Now, the development of Mega Man 5 stuck primarily to this tried and true formula the team was familiar with. The Capcom team felt that they had accomplished many of their primary goals with the release of Mega Man 4. Many major implementations originally conceptualized were finally brought to life. With the formula set, the next best thing the Capcom team could introduce going forward would be utilizing powered up versions of Mega Man's arsenal. They did so with the primary focus being of quality of life improvements such as the Mega Buster upgrade. The Capcom team now took the charge shot and expanded on it with a larger projectile and overall shorter charge time. The trade-off, however, came in the event Mega Man would be dealt damage while charging up. If this occurs, Mega Man is required to recharge the shot once more. The second major quality of life improvement comes about introducing another major assist component in Beat, who was originally conceptualized around the time of Mega Man 3. Beat was intended to aid Mega Man alongside Rush, yet with many changes during the development cycle, Beat wouldn't be able to truly make his grand debut until now. Beat was designed to support Mega Man in his journey by attacking enemies. Beat swoops in with his charging rush attack, wiping out the enemy hordes ahead to clear the path for our Blue Bomber. Another change which tends to be overlooked is the new Rush Coil, a modified version of the Rush Coil unique to Mega Man 5 that appears underneath Rush to propel our heroes upward. Mega Man can now leap off Rush mid-bounds to reach higher heights, making the coil almost serve as a double jump when timed properly. With these new concepts implemented, work began on Mega Man 5. This time around, KJ Inafune would work alongside a new project leader in hopes his experience would guide his new team members to utilize the values distilled upon him through his work on the franchise. This would help continue to grow the culture of the development team. The results would be favorable, and many of the new design implementations played a major factor in the final product. Many members of the Mega Man community considered these new design choices unnecessary, and as a result made the overall experience that much easier, lacking the challenge the Mega Man series was heavily known for. Inafune would later go on record stating his experience with Mega Man 5 was quite fun, but had trouble with the designs and balancing of the game. The now infamous Robot Master contest returned, but now in collaboration with Nintendo Power Magazine. The Capcom team was presented with many great entries accumulating to over 130,000 submissions, but the team ran into quite a few concerns when finalizing approval for the chosen Robot Masters. Due to these new changes within the contest, the Capcom team would have to re-illustrate all the final designs several times over, and many of these setbacks bled into the overall programming when incorporating the central Robot Master themes. Although challenges arose, the Capcom team would be triumphant over these shortcomings and lead Mega Man into his next breakthrough adventure. Roughly 2 months after Wily's latest attempts for world domination, the Mega Man gang again began working peacefully towards a greater future in the robot sciences. While working alongside Dr. Light, Mega Man begins to become more and more interested in learning about his long-lost brother Proto Man. Now that he has surfaced during the events of his latest journey, Mega Man asks Dr. Light about his brother's interests and what his personality is like. Unfortunately, Dr. Light can't give Mega Man the answers he is searching for. Around this time, Mega Man would get word from Dr. Cossack that his new companion Beat would be finishing up development, and Mega Man sets off on a journey to Dr. Cossack's lab. When Mega Man arrives, they receive an incoming call from Dr. Light informing the team that random attacks have begun popping up all over the city in the form of 8 mysterious robot masters. Surprisingly, this time, Wily's fingerprints were nowhere to be found. In the middle of this new threat appeared a familiar face, and a shocking one at that, in the form of Mega Man's brother, Proto Man. Not only does Proto Man send his robot masters off to destroy the city, but he also departs to Light Labs with the intention to kidnap him. Due to the events at large, Mega Man immediately leaves Dr. Cossack's and arrives home to suit up for action. When he arrives home, he discovers Dr. Light missing and Proto Man's trademark scarf mysteriously left behind. As the destruction continues on, Mega Man can only think of one thing. Something about this whole situation seems completely wrong. Now, to give a bit more insight on Mega Man 5's overall plot, Mega Man would receive a call from Dr. Cossack confirming details on Dr. Light's abduction and Proto Man's attack on the city. Buried within the pages of the Famicom manual, a message would read, "Cossack to Mega Man. Cossack to Mega Man, come in Mega Man. Proto Man has gone wild. City Hall and the spaceport have been totally destroyed and the city's power grid is in shambles. I've never seen destruction on this scale before. I know you're worried about Dr. Light, but your first duty is to free the city from the grip of Proto Man's robots. I can modify your reactor to give the Mega Buster a little bit more power, but the rest is up to you. Dr. Light and I had been working on a special project, but it's not finished yet. Maybe if I can get it working, it might give you an edge. Remember to watch your back, Mega Man. Proto Man seems to have become more ruthless than we had thought possible. Good luck. Cossack out." With Dr. Light missing, Mega Man and Dr. Cossack would now team up to tackle the latest threats unfolding. Dr. Cossack begins to bring his scientific genius to the table and begins putting together blueprints for a much needed power-up for our Blue Bomber. Now back with the additional sciences of Dr. Cossack, Mega Man dives into action with a new and improved Mega Buster to stop his brother Proto Man from further destruction. Now, if you're going into Mega Man 5 and expecting to see something groundbreaking that will knock your socks off, you're going to be let down. Mega Man 5 at the core is very much a strong continuation of Mega Man 4. However, if you go into this expecting just a lot more Mega Man action that you have grown to love, then you are going to get just that. The new and improved Mega Buster is just as much fun as it was to use in Mega Man 4, only this time doing a massive wave of damage that can come at a cost. As I mentioned earlier, one large trade-off with this charge shot now is being hit prior to releasing it. If in the event you get hit, you are charging your Mega Buster up again. Now in my opinion, this never bothered me. I feel the change is warranted and it balances out the increased damage it deals, forcing you to be a tad more accurate with the timing. It's also satisfying when you release it. Mega Man also looks very cool while in his charged state, and I think the after effect looks pretty badass too. Now, I will say, when it comes to the new modified Rush Coil, it does take some getting used to. I hated this coil my first few playthroughs of the game. I tend to forget how to use it altogether when I step away from this game. Yet if the Rush Coil is mastered, it's far more useful than its previous counterpart, and that's exactly how it should be. Mega Man's other sidekick Eddie returns with his ever-changing selection of seasonal goodies in the forms of E-Tanks and energy capsules. Yet Mega Man's newest sidekick may be one of the most badass of them all. Although it would take you a majority of the adventure to find the Mega Man 5 letters scattered throughout the stages to unlock him, Beat will accompany you in the result you do. Trust me, you won't regret picking him up. Beat gives zero trucks, and he destroys anything and everything that stands in his way. He's any robot master's worst nightmare and continues to hone in with his aerial assaults until his energy bar is completely depleted. One additional item device can be found this time around in the form of the Super Arrow. This can be utilized to attack enemies and create platforms sticking to any wall for a short period of time. The Super Arrow can also be used to travel across the lands, resembling the Item 2 device, but this time around doesn't disappear when the energy runs out, only when coming in contact with a wall or an enemy. The Mystery Tank has also been incorporated into the series now, which now fully refills health and all item powers. You know, it's kind of like going out for late night ice cream and packing on that second scoop with all the toppings. Mega Man 5 breathed some new creativity into the series level designs. It might have been the fun character designs on the game box that drew me in, but I would always gravitate, no pun intended, to Gravity Man stage first and where the idea first pops into my mind. I always have a blast with this stage, and for me personally, it's my favorite stage of the game. The changing of the gravitational pull finds you flip-flopping from the ceiling to the floor on the fly. You start to really get creative with your jumps, firing a fully powered charge-off as you ascend and descend between platforms. Even the battle with Gravity Man himself is very unique, and you need to use a a degree of precision when firing your shot off just in the right time to put him away. Starman Stage brought new physics to the run and gun formula with a sort of anti-gravity approach to the environment. Very floaty jumps find you second guessing yourself at all times. Once you begin to get a grip on the physics of the outer limits, firing off shots as you float across the screen never felt sweeter. I always look forward to playing through Waveman Stage. Traveling through the aquatic scenes on your mega jet ski is the coolest sight to see. Where in many games this tends to break up the gameplay and can be very hit or miss, here it's implemented perfectly and feels natural the moment you hop on. The stage itself is beautifully designed and truly shows off how well these later Mega Man games look on the hardware. I can just stare at the larger-than-life robotic kraken that lifts up out of the depths of the wave pool to interrupt Mega Man's beachside excursion. Crystal Man Stage is a beautiful stage to travel through. The way the surroundings capture the game's color palette throughout the stage really brings the background and foreground to life. The crystals almost radiate in your presence as you progress through the stage. This makes you feel somewhat immersed in the stage itself, although the way the crystals drop through the stage might be the most frustrating platforming segments of the entire game. If you don't time your jumps just right, these hazards will troll you every step of the way. Charged Man Stage is another standout for me. You're traveling throughout the stage, moving from train cart to train cart just to battle an angry train at the end. If that isn't some Inception shit right there. All in all, the stage is very fun and really just shows how lighthearted the game design can be, but also takes the themes and really stretches the imagination with them. My favorite robot master to come out of this new batch is by far Napalm Man. Something about his towering stature and assortment of weapons really made him feel larger than life. I also love the vibrant color palette they chose to give him, sporting an almost midnight purple paint job with golden red accents. This really made him pop out overall. I think he would have even made a great Mega Man killer robot for those familiar with the series of the Mega Man Game Boy games. Another favorite of mine is Gyro Man. He looks so sleek in design, and how he descends down out of the clouds leaves you on the edge of your seat anticipating his every move. Some of the power-ups in Mega Man 5 I enjoyed to use were the gravity hold, which literally changes the gravitational pull of an on-screen enemy. Not only does this crush them by a mere tap of a button, but as you do so, they are sent packing up, and away. Another is the Power Stone shot that releases up to 3 stones per shot, which are then sent spiraling towards your enemies. Something about the sound of firing the Power Stones also just sounded super satisfying. So now we reach the inevitable showdown, brother versus brother. Mega Man arrives at Proto Man's fortress just in time to confront his brother for his actions. A fatal exchange takes place between the two until a critical moment occurs. Another Proto Man arrives. The gig is up, and this wannabe Mysterio reveals his real identity, going by the alias Dark Man, an illusionist created by no other than Dr. Wily himself. A revenge plot due to Proto Man betraying the Mad Doctor in Mega Man 4. After Mega Man lays waste to this new big bad, the brothers reunite and Mega Man whisks off to bring Wily down once again and save Dr. Light. This playthrough, we again are treated to 2 endgame fortresses. The Proto Man and Wily fortresses are both very well designed and respectively incorporate their fortress themes well. Proto Man's castle makes great use of the game's primary stage assets. Each stage is bright and vibrant in color, and as you progress through, the little attention to detail really show throughout. For me, it's the small details that really make me fall in love with the NES games. There's also some challenging enemy placement, such as the white tigers known as Sumatrans that swoop in for the kill when making eye contact with our hero. The barrage of Bombeers and Apache Joes that attack from above as you progress through the stages, especially throughout the conveyor belt platforming segments, really put your platforming skills to the test. The various Darkman robots are all fun to take on. Each Darkman robot has a unique gimmick or power-up that can do a solid amount of damage if you come in contact with them. If you come into these fights just thinking these boss encounters are complete pushovers, you're gonna get walloped. They pack a heavy punch, so stay on your toes. The Wily Castle is a fun run through as well. This time around, they again feel very reminiscent of the layout of Mega Man 4. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I wouldn't say that these encounters are much more grand in scale than any previous ones. In fact, I tend to like the challenge of Proto Man's fortress stages a bit more. I love the visuals of the stages, and the boss battles themselves are just as fun as ever before. Aesthetically speaking, these two feel like a strong continuation of the designs from Mega Man 4. My standouts of the Wily Castle for me is the 3-tiered rotating boss battle requiring you to take each step with caution as you pivot off the platforms to connect with your shot. Your standard gauntlet of 8 robot masters return in the final stretch, and in due time you will be facing off against Wily's newest war machine in the final stretch. After making waste of Wily's Skull Tanker, you eventually will be pitted off against the latest Wily Capsule machine in a last-ditch effort to see the Mad Doctor's plans through. With some patience, he goes down just as easy as he did each time before. As Mega Man puts an end to Wily's schemes once more, his castle begins to collapse prematurely, caving in on Mega Man and Dr. Light. As the ceiling comes down, Mega Man braces the falling debris above him, watching Wily escape. As the ceiling begins to close in, beginning, Proto Man appears just in time to save his crew, blasting an exit path for Mega Man and Dr. Light to escape through. As our heroes look on, Wily's castle crumbles once more, turning to dust, sorta like another familiar scene that comes to mind when watching this. Now, if you assumed I was going into this review with a radical take, claiming this installment in the mainline series ended up lackluster at best, my answer is quite honestly the opposite. In fact, much of what I loved about Mega Man 4 is represented quite well here in Mega Man 5. For me, if a series has delivered on the expectations, then for me that's all I can truly ask for. And if you purchase this game, then you know just that. This is Mega Man 5. We have been here many times before, so in many ways, what I expect is another serving of that great Mega Man recipe, and that's exactly what I got. The areas in the game that were improved upon, as with the change in the Mega Shot, was something that we didn't really ask for. But to be fair, this change also made the experience that much more balanced. What is misinterpreted by the lack of challenge is presented through having options and additional support items. Sure, the experience could be a tad harder, but like Mega Man 4, which is held in such high standards, the same level of difficulty is felt here, only you have the option to use these additional upgrades. I didn't have an easier time between the two games, and to be fair, I really couldn't tell you one was harder than the other. The stages themselves were also fun and creative, and the new gravity effects and gimmicks never felt tedious or hindered my overall experience. I wasn't frustrated with the zero gravity feel of Starman stage, and shifting back and forth from floor to ceiling throughout Gravity Man stage transitioned so smoothly it never gave me an issue. I generally got a great kick out of it. There's something to be said about constantly changing a formula in the fear that a franchise will become stale. Yet as the classic Blue Bomber began to fade away, you realize one thing: how can I truly miss you if you never go away? That's the feeling these games instill upon you. What you once felt was so repetitive was in fact something you didn't realize you missed so badly until it was gone. That's exactly how I feel with the later Mega Man games. And you know, it's funny, but I never complained that I received a new Mega Man game each year. To me, it was a blessing just seeing new adventures of your favorite series, such as a monthly comic that would come out on the newsstands. Just when you thought you moved on to bigger and better things with the next generation of console gaming, you would eventually return years later and open that old shoebox of NES games and find endless adventures ready to be told once more. In my opinion, there's no greater series on the NES than the ones told across the 6 installments of the Mega Man series. And when we return, we'll start the final chapter of that legacy with Mega Man 6.